Welcome back, everyone. This MonoGame video focuses on improved UI with the new version 2, V2, Visual Forms components. It's going to be an overview video, not a deep dive. I'll show you the code, explain how things work, and then the next video will go into more detail. So specifically, I'll go over the updated controls of V2 visuals. I'll show you how to create a few of the controls, and then I'm going to show you this little demo that will talk about how to change the styles. First, let's just get a comparison here and take a look at the differences between version 1 and version 2. For the code-only Gum MonoGame Forms controls here, if you look at the items that are pretty much from the checkboxes and the radio buttons to the right, this is kind of the standard forms objects that exist. We've got text boxes I can type in. There is multi-line text boxes where you can actually have multiple lines of data. There are lists. You can have items added to a list. There's objects that can be in multiple objects, like a scroll viewer. You can add items to that. There's a menu system. There are, of course, radio buttons and checkboxes. There are windows. You can resize, you can move around and close. There are sliders, and then there are these separators here as well. Here are V2 visuals. You'll notice that the V2 visuals have upgrades, so these are actually using images. The same thing as if you were using the Gum tool versus using the code only. But now that same look and feel is brought to you in the code only. The checkboxes are actually checkboxes, not squares. We can see that there's borders. There's a little bit more flavor to everything. And there's icons being used for up and down. So the UI itself should feel better now if you're using V2 visuals. Now let's take a look at an actual demo showing off easy style changes using global styles. So I've got this project. I've got a little menu system. I've got some submenus just to show that the buttons do things. So I'm toggling this to make it borderless. I've got some styles. I can change the styles. I can change the fonts. And then I can even go in here and I can select different sliders. I can enter my name. I can change the values here. These are checkboxes. But I can change the styles at will now. And that's kind of what I want to dive into. So what ultimately are the color changes? What are these styling that are happening? So the styles are being set by these methods that I'm calling whenever somebody clicks on a specific menu item. And when we do that, I'm changing the different style properties that are used to build up the default controls. We can look at all the different styling that we can do by looking and decompiling this styling object or going to the source and looking at it or the documentation. So if I just control click on this, we can see that we have access to colors, 9-slice configuration, icon configuration, text configuration. And so we can modify these things so that we can make our default styles whenever we build a brand new control. It will use these default styles. You have to be careful though, because if you build the styles after you create your control, those styles won't be applied to the control that's built. So you have to set your styles first, then build or rebuild your window or your control. I just picked a few different palettes that are from the low-spec website and use those here. I'm setting the primary color, the primary light color, primary dark color, accent, And I'm changing the white value as well because the text, the font, uses the white color right now in the V2 visuals. So that everything looks good, I'm also setting the background color for the entire screen, so that way it's not all the default MonoGame cornflower blue. So all you have to do is create an instance of the styling object, pass in a sprite sheet. Now, if you don't want to modify the existing sprite sheet, the one that's being used for all the controls, you can just pass the default one in, and then you can modify the style. And once you've modified it, you now can save this style somewhere, and then you can also set the active style to your style. This is all you need to do to change the colors, the entire look and feel of the objects with code only. For fonts, I went a little bit of a different route on this. What I'm doing is I'm actually changing the font name. So right here I'm changing the font's name from whatever it was before. I'm changing it to a new font name. For instance, I'm changing it to Arial or Book Antique or Kenny Mini Square or Monotype. The trick is, though, any of the fonts that you want to have loaded automatically for you, you need to actually put them in your content folder in a very specific folder name called font cache. In addition to that, the file name is very specific. If you look at the right here, they're all font, size, font name, and then whether or not it's bold or italic. The best way to create all of these fonts is to actually use the Gum tool. The Gum tool, whenever you select a font for a text object, it will pre-build the font objects for you, the font files for you. Now, this isn't really a tutorial on using the Gum tool or bitmap fonts, but let me just demonstrate really quick. We can go to the standard objects, drag a text object into here. We can zoom in so we can actually look at it. And now if I scroll down in the variables, I can change the font from Arial to any fonts installed on my system. And when I do that, behind the scenes, there is a font cache. We can view the font cache by going here, and we can see all the different fonts that are here. Now I can clear the font cache, and we can see that this is now empty. It's gone. So now if I click off, click back on, it should generate the font for us, but let's just make sure by going to something else. Go back to the font cache. There's our font. The only two files that you really need are the FNT font file and the PNG file, the actual image that contains the rasterized bitmap images. That's all you need is this image file and this font file, but they have to go into your same directory, the font cache directory over here in the content folder. You can also use any BitmapFont generation tool that exists. There's a bunch of them, and they talk about that even in the Gum documents. And the key is that you just need to make sure that if you want to be able to use all the exact same information with just changing the font name, what you need to do is you need to generate a font that has italic, a font that has bold, a font that has neither, a font that has both, and it all has to be at the same 18 font size. So hopefully this shows you that with the styling global font and colors, you can make drastic changes to your application's look and feel. So I can change the way it looks with just a single change to the colors and a single change to the fonts. And then all of these V2 visuals will look however you've designed them. Future video will cover going into depth about editing these visuals, using your own sprite sheet, and more. Thanks for watching, and if you have questions, please leave them below. You can always join the Discord, go to the documentation, or even go to GitHub. All right, thanks. Bye.